Now we move on to the Pirate Seas levels, where first plant you get is the Kernel-pult. Kernel-pult is placed there as temporary support. Now, temporary support because it doesn't deal a lot of damage. It can stall enemies, but that again comes down to luck. It's useful against flying zombies like the what is it called, the seagull zombie, and also the zombie parrot that flies out of the pirate captain zombie. So yeah, but that is all by chance really. Now, yeah, it has to have backup plans for it to be effective. So make sure you have like a bok choy to defend it, or maybe a bloom another cheap plant like the cabbage pult or pea shooter, and the Kernel-pult should do fine. But remember that this is a temporary support plant and it should be replaced later on. Okay, we got that down. Next, Snapdragon. Oh my god, this is one plant that is very, very powerful. However, it does have its drawbacks. As I said, the Snapdragon is a filter plant, which means it deals more damage the more zombies it's up against. And it allows other plants to focus on dangerous enemies. Like mainly, since it's a short-ranged filter plant, it allows the long-range damage-dealing plants to focus on these enemies. However, Snapdragons have a drawback, and this is usually in the Egypt levels where you have the Explorer zombies. As you know, the Explorer zombies have a torch, and if it gets extinguished, the Snapdragon can light it back on fire. Not a good plan. So Snapdragons are not good on Egypt levels, but they shine in, like, if you see what zombies are gonna come out before you start a level. If you don't see an Explorer zombie in the Egypt level, just bring on the Snapdragon and it will just decimate camel zombies, the tomb raisers, the pharaohs, and the graves that get raised by the tomb raiser zombie. Easily, very easy. And yeah, but remember, if like, okay, we'll focus a bit more on pirate levels. You know that the imp cannons are far away from the Snapdragon, so yeah. But we'll talk more about that later. It's generally not so there's generally not really a flaw when you use it on Wild West levels with Prospector zombies, because usually the Snapdragons will be about the third or fourth column, or something like that. So it won't reach the Prospector zombie to deal anything. But it's pretty good against chicken wrangler zombies, especially the zombie chickens that come out, because it's a filter. It deals more damage the more zombies it's up against. And if the chicken swarm comes in, just one breath of fire will kill all the zombies. You know, it's basically like, oh, you know, the lightning reed. You know, don't worry. We've got the Snapdragon, which deals more damage in general and can deal more damage to more than one zombie at once. So yeah, and it's wide range as well. And it has a very destructive plant food upgrade as well. Sets a 3x3 area in front of it, dealing massive damage. So all around good plant, but just be careful where you use it. That's all I can say. Spikeweed, another excellent filter plant. It also destroys one rolling zombie, but in general, the main purpose of the Spikeweed is to filter. I would think so. Because once you get the momentum, you don't really have to worry about the barrel roller zombies being able to deal any sort of damage to the Spikeweed. The Spikeweed being affected by the barrel roller zombies. And it's pretty good against imp cannons because even though they don't destroy immediately and they get destroyed themselves, it deals chip damage to imp cannons enough for it to be destroyed soon. Before the imp cannons explode and a shower of imps just absolutely decimate the insides of your defense. Who knew? So the Spikeweed is good to use with Snapdragons, with bok choys. It helps the bok choy a lot in helping to filter plants. In general, 2 columns of Spikeweeds is able to take down regular zombie. Regular zombies like imps and zombies. So yeah, great plant to pick up. Use it anytime, anywhere. Also, Spikeweeds also help to block out the tombs raised by a tomb raiser zombie. So good, plant as many as you can, but try and leave 1 columns in case you want to like put in a temporary plant like potato mine, iceberg lettuce, chili bean, stuff like that, or cherry bomb. You know, coconut cannon. Now this is, I don't generally use the coconut cannon, and even though some people say, oh, you want to use the coconut cannon as much as possible because it reloads, sometimes you want to use the coconut cannon as a stall tactic, because sometimes you want to extend the length of how the amount of time it takes before the next wave of zombies come and stuff like that. So you can just hold the coconut cannon while it's still loaded, and then when you absolutely need it, or when the next wave starts to come in or stuff like that, you can just fire it down and deal the damage, and then rinse and repeat. It's a good way to stall the next wave because in general, when you take heavy mainstays like the Kernel-pult and stuff like that, they generally deal the damage and waves keep on continuing to come in. With the coconut cannon, you have a bit of control of when you want the waves to come in and stuff like that. One thing that's not good about the coconut cannon is that it doesn't deal a lot of damage on Egypt levels firsthand, especially when there are a lot of graves, because as you know, the coconut cannon fires down a straight line like the pea shooter, so it's bound to hit the graves with its shot. So take note of that as well. Just be careful of that. And using the plant food where there's still a grave in front of it is generally not a good idea because it will just explode when it hits the grave. It won't just destroy the grave, all the graves in one line. It just hits the grave and absolutely explodes. So it's one waste of plant food. Not a good plant in general. Spring bean. Spring bean is another specific support plant, which means that it's only useful on Pirate Seas levels, but it's only useful on Pirate Seas level and useless in other levels as well. So, as you know, spring beans launch zombies backwards or into water if it's nearby. In general, the spring bean is good if there are a lot of plank lanes, which are if all the plank lanes are near water. Let's say, okay, let's bring up paint again, if we could do so. Yeah, there we are. So let's say you have 2 lanes here. So you have 2 plank lanes here, 1 unplanked lane here, and 2 plank lanes here. If you put a spring bean here, 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 and here, it will generally launch all the zombies it has here into the water, which is good. However, if like we change the board, okay, let's let's change this a bit. So if we have, like, say, a lane here, a lane here, a lane here, and a lane here. So these are the 3 plank lanes. This center lane will have a problem if you put a spring bean here because it's not next to water. So it'll just launch zombies back. And here's another tip if you're gonna use spring bean. If you're gonna use spring bean for unplanked lanes, like when the swashbuckler zombie comes in and swings over here, you can generally put a spring bean right here, and immediately as he steps onto this tile, he will just get launched back into the water. That's about the range. But any deeper than this line here, and generally the spring bean won't be able to launch it back in water. It will just launch like right at the edge right here. Just to let you know. So it's safe. Okay. So spring bean, use with caution. Know when to use it. If not, you might be better off using a chili bean. Okay. Next is cherry bomb. I don't think we need much introduction for this because you know it deals a lot of damage to a small area, 3x3. But one thing I find the cherry bomb, even though I classified it as a late one-hit wonder, it's also a good one-hit wonder to use on Egypt to clear out graves. Even though that may seem a bit trivial, but in the long run it can actually help a lot. So, but you must understand that if you have like a space restriction for plants, you might have to choose either the grave buster or the cherry bomb at the end of it. If you want to figure out how to clear the grave, or maybe you might want to change it to the jalapeno. What do I know? So yeah, just remember that. Cherry bomb in general, you don't really need to bring it unless like in late waves, like you want to use it for large early waves, stuff like that. I don't know when. Sometimes I do use it, but in general, I'm okay using the grave busters since I know which graves to take out first and which plants to put in later on. Spikerock in general, yes, it is a filter plant like Spikeweed, but in all honesty, is not really necessary. As I said, like the walnut, the tall nut isn't really necessary. The spikeweed is better. The spike rock isn't all that necessary because usually you want when you use a spike plant, you generally want to put it early, and during this time you don't really have the enough sun in your bank to put up a spike rock, especially during later levels where the early waves get quite intense early on. So you want to use something a bit cheaper and easier to put down so that you can make up as many plants as you can for the early defense. So spike rock isn't really all that necessary, and especially since that in general, once you have the momentum built up, you have a good set of heavy hitting plants. The spike rock doesn't really have to worry about nailing any of the rolling plants later on. So yeah, I think spikeweed is fair enough. The spike rock isn't really needed. Also, the threepeater, I put there under first line damage. You know why? Because it deals about the same damage as a pea shooter. Only it shoots in 3 lanes. So in general, it's not gonna deal a lot of damage. I mean, sure, you save a lot of space. You could have 4 peas firing in the same line, but you know what? What else does that? Two repeaters in the same row. Who knew? In general, not that useful. I would think it would be better to just use the normal pea shooter in this kind of scenario, or the Snapdragon is much better compared to Threepeater because it deals more damage compared to Threepeater.